if you've been paying attention to my face cam over the past few years worth of that we've been watching, you probably noticed two things. One, when I was a new runner, I was very young looking. I was very thin in the face. I was more expressive and more cringe as a result. And then as time passed, as we've been going through these runs, you probably noticed, one, I darkened my cam after the RBO world record where it was like super bright, where I got those lights. I actually darkened my cam after that. And even though it's hard to see, I started getting less thin in the face. I started getting more what's the word? Docile, subdued, like those kind of words, right? And less expressive and less excited about achieving things. And if you were watching me at the time, I was also getting more irritable. So there were a couple things that were contributing to this. One, like I said, so earlier I mentioned that I started taking Adderall for ADHD, and it was very helpful for focus, but it was messing with my physicality, like my heart rate and my blood pressure and stuff. And so I ended up coming off of it because the side effects were just too crazy. I also got a new job the end of 2018, and it's the same job that I have today, but it's much better circumstances for me today than it was back then, definitely. But it was extremely stressful. The job change was extremely stressful. I went from a job where I knew pretty much everything there was to know about the job. I was in more or less a management position. I had a lot of job security. I had been there for 10 years. I was working with a bunch of friends. And everything was just really great. And then money started getting pretty tight for us. And so I asked for a raise, and my job said no. And so I was like, okay, well, I mean, I need a raise or I have to find another job. And so then they were like, well, okay, we can promote you into this other department. And maybe you can get a raise that way. But then they just were like really dragging their feet with that stuff. And while all of this was happening, my friends that I had been working with for years and years and years, one by one, were just leaving. They were like, I'm leaving the company. I found another job elsewhere. I'm leaving the company. It's not working for me. I'm leaving the company, blah, blah, blah. Reason XYZ. They were all exiting, right? So all of the reasons that I had to stay at that job at that company were disappearing, like basically being pulled out from under my feet. In addition to me needing a higher pay, and knowing that I was worth more than I was being paid. So I started looking for another job, and a couple of my friends had gone to another company, and I started the interview process there. Long story short, I did end up leaving my job and going to that other company that my friends were working at. But I left that position of stability and moved into a position of complete, chaos, for lack of a better word. I didn't know anything pretty much about the job that I was supposed to be doing. I had like very basic foundational knowledge about the topics that I was supposed to know about. But as far as like company process, who I was working with, expectations, just like everything changed, right? It was extremely stressful. And it had a very physical impact and also a very mental impact on me. The one benefit is that it did come with a pay raise, and I have continued receiving, small pay raises since then, periodically, usually about once a year. My other job, I didn't even get annual increases. So, that's been nice, but it was really, really rough. And so all that stuff happened. The medication stuff happened. My mental state was just taking a huge dive. And additionally, and I am not going to elaborate on this, so don't even ask, there were people in the Super Metroid community that were literally abusing me. And so you probably, like I said, if you've been watching the face cam, have noticed over the past few years of these runs, it's not that I am a different person, but I changed a lot over the span of about 2.5 to 3 years from when I started to where we're at now currently. And late 2019, I started into 100%. I also did some double Norfair reverse boss order right before this. I could look at those to, look at the world record pop-offs. I guess probably just one of them is worth looking at. But more or less, I mean, the reason I was doing double Norfair is because there was a tournament going on, and the funny thing is, like, I had record by a lot at this point. My record was a 58, and Zost was second place with a 103. So like, I don't know why anybody would question whether I was the best in the world at the category at that time, but there was one of the toxic people in the community that I was referring to a minute ago. I remember they were in Kip's chat and the tournament was coming up, and Kip was like, Zeni is clear favorite to win this. I think Kip said something along the lines of, I just think it would be cool to get second or third place, or like something like that. And this person in chat said something along the lines of, Zeni isn't clear favorite. Why do you think that? Or like something like that. Like, he only ever runs single Norfair. He's just gonna die and he's gonna lose early in the bracket, or like something along those lines. And the really hilarious thing about that exchange that happened is that I was watching Kip's stream when it happened. I was sitting there watching Kip's stream. I'm just lurking. I'm in the chat. That conversation takes place. I was already planning on running double Norfair, but yeah, they said that about me. I was like, oh man, like, I guess crack my knuckles and roll up my sleeves and get to work on this. And then Kip said something that I will probably never forget. And I don't know if he's ever going to see this, but if so, Kip, I just want you to know it really meant a lot to me when you kind of had my back. You probably don't even remember the exchange. Maybe you do. Kip said, Zeni could literally run the slower route. He could literally run double Norfair with all of the safeties and beat everyone else in the tournament by multiple minutes. Like, what do you mean you don't understand why I'm saying he's the clear favorite? Like, what are you talking about? I mean, I don't remember exactly how Kip put it, but that was more or less like the message that came across to me, like how I perceived it. And I was like, thank you, Kip. Like, again, not to be like pompous or elitist or whatever, but I mean, I worked my butt off in this game between when I started to when that conversation happened. I was working myself to the bone, and there were a handful of people that for one reason or another decided they hated me and would go out of their way at any opportunity to try and discredit me or invalidate me or say that I didn't deserve the recognition that I was getting or whatever, right? Like, it was stupid. It was so ridiculous. So yeah, I started running double Norfair, and I got my double Norfair time down to lower than what was currently world record. Not currently world record. Previously world record single Norfair by Zost, which was the 103. So I got this double Norfair 102.30 time. Now this run is not perfect end all be all, but it was very solid for sure, and I was pretty happy with it. I actually did attempt to beat this in 2021, not like in huge earnest, but I did. I spent like probably 2 or 3 weeks trying to beat it, but I couldn't, so I just moved on. What's funny is this is not actually the current double Norfair world record. Zost has the current double Norfair world record with a 101 something, but he lost the VOD and he never uploaded it, so that's just gone. But yeah, so 102.30, as you can hear, there is no, I'm not even saying anything, right? There's no cam, I'm not on mic, and that is because I was in such a bad place that I knew people didn't want to see or hear me while I was doing these runs. So you can see me in chat. Effing finally opened the month on the worst day of the year with a big PB, and I'm ending it that way. I quit. So for the month on the worst day of the year, I don't know how to find what day that was. I could probably find it if I really dug for it, but I was not in a good place. So the RBO tournament came and went. I completely dominated the bracket in that tournament. And then I started in on 100%. So I started back in on 100% in August 2019. And I don't remember how many runs it took me to beat my PB. I don't remember if it was first run or if it took me a handful, because literally that space of time between summer 2019 and summer 2022, maybe even winter 2022, there are large spaces of time in which I actually have no memory. It's just big blank spots. And I've talked to my psychiatrist about that, kind of worried about it. And more or less what she said is, you went through a lot of trauma and you're probably just suppressing all of it, which, yeah, I mean, I think that's true. So I remember the last Hundo tourney, there were a lot of people talking a lot of BS when you missed Green Pirate Shaft. Are you talking about the race that I lost to Zost when I fell down one side? Anyway, so yeah, so I'll touch on that in a minute, but yeah, so I started in on 100% again in earnest. And what's interesting about this is 100% was and is and probably always will be my favorite category. But this was the beginning of what was a very, very difficult grind. So I was, like I mentioned already, I was in a very dark place. And I was excited to get back to Hundo, but I was also there was a big question mark for me about whether I could actually achieve what I wanted to. And that wasn't even world record. I didn't actually have any intention on grinding 100% for a world record, because at the time I didn't believe that I could, if I'm being completely honest. Hey Willow, thanks. But I started grinding this, and this is my first PB back. Hopefully the first of some big time cuts is the caption here. So I just started working on it. First I PB'd by almost a minute, and then just a few seconds, and then half a minute, and then another like 20 seconds or so. This is when I started pursuing series escape world record in earnest as well. So I started doing things like running the stairs and practicing series strats and stuff like that. And yeah, so what's interesting about this is I was in a really bad place, but I was also working harder on this game than I literally ever had before or have since. And yeah, so I'm, the next few minutes of this is going to be me talking about this 100% grind, but before I forget, so hats, yes, the 2023 Hundo tournament, which I organized, by the way, I had world record, and I was probably favorite to win, but not necessarily by a lot, because Behemoth was also running the category at the time, and he was like right on my tail. We actually traded the record back and forth a couple times during the tournament, if I recall correctly. But yeah, it got down to the semifinals, and I think it was semifinals. It was me versus Zost and Behemoth versus Gebu. Pretty sure it was Gebu. And I mean, you guys, I tell people not to idolize me, and I mean it. Please don't, because it's weird and it bothers me. But honestly, like on some level, for the people that do, I just want you to know I understand, because that's how I feel about Zost. Okay. Zost and I are more friends now than anything, but for a long time, I've freaking idolized the dude. It was like, bro, you're like the god of SM, and I want to be just like you. So like, I would copy all of his strats. I would try and copy his practice methodologies. Like I would like take cues from the way that he did his layouts, all sorts of stuff. Okay. And what's interesting is I did a lot of that initially. And then what's kind of funny is as the years have gone on, we kind of started copying each other, and then he kind of started copying me more. And now it's kind of like we just do our own stuff for the most part, but every once in a while, like I'll do something and then I'll see that he did it, or he'll do something and I'll decide to do it. Like it's an interesting dynamic there. But Zost is one of my best friends, and he has been for years at this point. Zost and I got really close. I'm trying to think of when we started getting closer. I think it was around this same time, like 2019, 2020. Zost and I started getting closer. I remember messaging him as virtually a nobody but I noticed that he hadn't been streaming for a while, and it made me sad, and I was kind of worried about him. So I actually DM'd him, and I was like, hey, like, just want you to know I miss your streams, and I hope you're doing okay. And he was not in a good place, and we just kind of connected and talked about stuff. And we do that periodically now. Every once in a while, we'll just talk about our lives and what's going on and stuff. And honestly, he, like I said, he is one of my best friends, without reservation, without hesitation. I can say that easy. So the reason I said all that just now is because, for context, I'm going into this race in the 2023 Hundo tournament against Zost, and I know I'm favorite to win that matchup. Zost was not grinding the category hard at all, and I think he was even doing some like slower stuff intentionally because he just wanted to be really chill about the way that he was pushing it. He wasn't trying super hard to PB or anything, and so it should have been an easy win for me. The thing is, I was still in the middle of recovering from my 2021 burnout, which I'll get to in a bit. I was on some medications that were messing with me, not because they were never good for me, just because I probably shouldn't have stayed on them as long as I did. So I was dealing with side effects from some medications that I had been on to try and help me during my burnout recovery, and there was so much pressure. There was so much pressure to win that matchup. And I knew like this should be free. Not because I, didn't respect Zost, but just because I had been grinding it so hard, and like a 113 was a bad run for me, right? Like, and his PB was the 112.55, but his average in the tournament was like a high 113, 114, I think, or something. So I was like, I can definitely win this matchup. But the thing is, I was so nervous and I got so in my head and lost. I literally had like no control over my hands in some of the more important moments, and I ended up losing that matchup. And like Zost was like, mad isn't the right word, but like he was frustrated by it. Like we finished the race, and he was like, WTF, this wasn't supposed to happen. I was like, sorry, man. Like I just threw it. Sorry, it wasn't on purpose. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty bad. It was pretty rough. And there were definitely people talking. I don't know if I saw the same things that you're referring to, Hats. I mean, there were a couple of people here and there that were being toxic, but I mean, I'm used to that. Honestly, the toxicity that exists in the Super Metroid community now is like 1% of what it used to be. So it's fine. Like, whatever. But yeah, there were some people that started saying things like, wow, that's pretty messed up, yeah. There were definitely people at the time that were, whispering back and forth and whatever, and what they thought were like safe spaces, where they're like, yeah, I mean, Zeni's just not consistent. Like, he has world record, but he's bad because he's just not consistent. Like, of course Zost won the race, like blah, 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 blah. And I mean, the thing is, like, I had been working so hard on my consistency, that was hard to read. It's just like, you guys don't even know why I'm inconsistent. Like, I'm trying so hard to be consistent. My hands don't frickin' work, dude. My brain is on fire every other day, sometimes every day. I'm doing my best here. After I lost that race, honestly, that was kind of an important race for me to lose, because it made me really reevaluate how I need to approach races on a physical level. So I came up with a routine for pre-races, and I saved it in my phone so I wouldn't forget. So let me find it. SM race prep. Good sleep, no caffeine day of race, 30 to 60 minutes of a different game before the race, 1 to 2 hours of warm-up before, lots of protein, and a small snack 30 to 60 minutes before. Like, it's literally like a routine that I try to follow for races that are important. Because after losing that race to Zost, I was like, okay, listen, like, I got to figure out how to put myself in a physical state that allows me to race well. So yeah, I mean, losing that race sucked, but I think it was important for me. Anyway, this is supposed to be like a world record / milestone PB review, but I feel like that was a good thing to mention, since it's kind of morphed into the arc of Zeni, So yeah, popping back to this. So mid to late 2019, I started working on Hundo. It was August when I started. By September, I had a sub 120. Started working on Series Escape as well. I don't know why this is there. That's weird. 119, 118 a couple weeks later, 118. I believe this was my first series escape. Nope, not a record. Oats had a 47:38 at the time, I guess. 117 October, 117, 117, 117, 116 the end of October. So like, as you can see, I already mentioned this, but like during this time period, despite the fact that I was literally on a descent into the worst mental state that I've ever been in, I was working harder on this game and playing this game more than I ever had before or ever have since. Okay, I was working so hard on this category. 116. So now we're into 2020, January 2020, 116. And right around this time is when AGDQ 2020 was coming up, and Oats was running Super Metroid Impossible at AGDQ 2020. And I asked him if I could be on the couch, and he said yes. And so I turned that into a family vacation where we went to Florida so that we could do Disney World. Me and Sassy and my son Sam, who was 5 at the time. And so I had to get the time off of work, which again, I was extremely stressed out by work because I was a newish employee who had little to no idea what I was doing. They had put me on a new team that I was actually in charge of spinning up a product, and I had all of the foundational knowledge that I needed to get the product going, but because I was new, nobody wanted to listen to me. And also, everyone else that I was working with on that project was based in Canada, but I was based in the United States. So there was a desync there. And when I needed something, I would just have to like message them and hope that they would message back, and they never would message back. I was allowed to work from home 2 to 3 days a week. So I was working from home 2 to 3 days a week, and people started getting upset that I wasn't in the office enough. Like it was so stressful. Okay. I'm grinding 100% harder than I ever have. I'm grinding Super Metroid harder than I ever have. And then I know that I need to make sure that I'm prepared for Oats GDQ runs. So I start watching his Super Metroid Impossible runs. I did a practice hack playthrough of Super Metroid Impossible so that I would make sure that I was aware of all of the ins and outs of the run and could talk about it. And so like my focus and my energy and all that is being split in like a million different directions. Meanwhile, I'm also supposed to like be a good dad, be a good husband. I was so overwhelmed. My plate was so full. And AGDQ came and went. That trip that was supposed to be a family vacation for me and Sassy and my son Sam, because our girls were still babies at the time, and taking babies to Disney World is not necessarily the preferred thing. The Sassy's mom had agreed to watch the girls for us, and then she bailed like 2 weeks before our trip. So we had to scramble to figure that out. We'd already bought plane tickets for everybody. We'd already paid for the the place that we were going to be staying at. So we had to like pivot, figure out, okay, well, we can't really find anybody else to watch the girls, so I guess we'll bring them with. And like, I'm still glad that we went. And honestly, part of me is glad that the girls were there, because we have some really cute and fun pictures from that trip. But at the same time, like it was just so much. It was so much. I remember I got back from this vacation, and while we were there, this was right before COVID was officially in the United States. Some people say that they think that COVID was already here. Some people don't. Blah, 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 whatever. It doesn't matter. We got very sick. I didn't get sick, but while we were in Florida, Sam spiked a crazy fever the second day we were there. And on our way home, both girls got pink eye. So we get back from our vacation, and yes, it was a vacation, but it was not a restful vacation. Okay. We get back. I am run ragged with everything that I'm working on. And my first day back, on my work calendar, I was planning on working from home so I could chill and try and like rest and relax and recover after the trip. My boss had put a one-on-one in-person meeting on my calendar, so I had to go into the office that day. So I get in, we get in the office, he pulls me in for the one-on-one, and he says, "Hey man, like, how was your vacation?" I was like, "I mean, it was good, but I'm just exhausted." He's like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, we had to take the babies with us, and it was a vacation, but it was not restful. Like, it was hard. He's like, "Oh, it's fine. Like, you're fine." I was like, "Well, I mean, they also got pink eye." And he's like, "What did he say?" I mean, to be clear, like, I love this dude. I haven't talked to him in a few years. And this isn't, I don't say this to be negative, but the next thing he said was extremely insensitive and it stuck with me. He said, "Dude, you need to put your kids in a freaking bubble." Like, because they were sick. Because they were kids and kids get sick. And so every second or third or fourth week, I would mention that my kids were sick because they were sick because they're kids. Because it's like petri dish of germs and whatever, right? Like, so he said that and I was like, okay, so like professionally, I just kind of like shrugged it off. I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's annoying. I mean, we do the best we can. Sorry, but like, no, he does actually. I'm not going to get into it. It's okay. But like what that told me was my performance at work is noticeably less than stellar, or he wouldn't have made that kind of a comment. Like, "Man, your kids keep getting sick. You need to put them in a freaking bubble so you can work better." Like, so that was frustrating and unfortunate. And I honestly started worrying that I was gonna actually lose my job. Up until that point, I had been worrying that I was gonna lose my job because I had severe imposter syndrome, but I was able to kind of like shrug it off and be like, "It's just imposter syndrome. It's just imposter syndrome. It's just imposter syndrome." But now I had like tangible stuff that was like, people are noticing a lack of satisfaction in my work. And what if I lose my job and then I can't support my family and then they leave and then I lose everything and I die? Like, anxiety spiral, right? And yet despite that, you can see, so that was January. You can see the time continues coming down because I kept working on the category despite all this crap that I was going through. My goal at this point in the grind was to beat Zost's run, which had been world record at the time that I started streaming. Okay. He had a 1:15:20. Okay. So this run barely missed that milestone. This was February 2020. So this was 6 months into the grind. I got this run, and then I had 3 more runs that all should have PB'd and beaten his time that all died right at the end. I think I even tied this one at least once. Then I got series world record officially in February 2020. And then I got this PB, which beat Zost's time as of the end of February 2020. Okay. So we're going to watch this. Sorry, this was supposed to be a lot more like watch, run, and react to it, but whatever. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this content because it's honestly kind of therapeutic for me. Okay, so we're moving to Hundo. 1:15:13 Zosty Bob. Okay, so again, at this point in time, I've literally like idolized Zost. Okay, Kev, did I thank you for the raid? Thank you. Okay, so note, you can see my cam again. Okay, it's blue because my lights are off, but I don't have filters completely hiding me, but I'm still not in a great place, right? Cam is on, mic is on, I think. Pretty sure the mic is on. This is not. Okay, so here we go. Okay.
Something easy. Let's go.
So again, like I'd had a bunch of runs get to this point and then not quite close it out. I don't remember what baby skip I was doing at the time here, so this will be interesting to watch. But yeah, this was the Hundo grind. I can't tell. Yeah, we're good. Okay. This looks like spring ball. Okay. Okay, so note, yes, my heart rate is high here. This is a completely acceptable heart rate to have in that kind of a situation at baby skip, especially spring ball baby skip, on pace to potentially get a milestone PB where I bop my literal idol in this game. This is completely acceptable, okay? People were, though, constantly complaining about my high heart rate. I mean, you look at this, it's it's high throughout pretty much the whole run, right? I haven't seen it go below 100 this whole stream. Okay, it's finally below 100 for the beginning of stream where like nothing is happening. Okay, so the reason, it stays high. Okay, the reason it would stay so high here is again because one, I was stressed out of my mind with my life circumstances, and two, I don't remember if I was on Adderall at this point, but I had been on Adderall previously and would be again. And that stuff was absolutely affecting me. Okay. I hid my splits after baby skip, I think. So I didn't realize that we had golded here, and I didn't know what kind of pace we were going to be on. But I was afraid of Zeni sparking there, I think. Again, a lot of this is just a blur for me, to be quite honest. I don't remember a lot of this stuff.
Okay, that was the safest escape I think I have ever done. I was like, okay, slow, deliberate inputs. Be as safe as hecking possible, you hecking dude.
So the reason I'm mentioning about the escape and me being safe with it is I had also been grinding Zebus Escape world records at this time. Zebus Escape world records, and
it's not over till we see the 100%, guys.
I had lost a couple runs to mistakes in the escape because I was being too aggressive and blah 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 and whatever. So anyway, so like you can tell like I'm relieved, but I'm also kind of like
not gonna count my eggs before they hatch.
Apprehensive. Okay. I mean, realistically, I shouldn't have been worried about it, but things were just so weird for me mentally at this point.
Run is valid. Let's go.
So I played Fluvial, of course. I had not played it on, I think, any of my PBs up to this point, but I bopped Zost. He was my freaking idol, and I was like, this deserves it. So I played Fluvial, and I started crying during this. It was my son at the time that he came in to see, what was going on because I'd been celebrating. And anyway, I just remember holding him, and honestly, here's what I remember going through my head. And this is very interesting to think about. I remember thinking to myself, if I don't stop speedrunning Super Metroid now, I don't know when I will. Like, I literally thought to myself, maybe I should stop here. Maybe this should be it. Maybe I should just be done with this. Maybe I should be happy with this. I beat Zost's time. I beat what was world record when I started watching Zost's Twitch channel. Behemoth had world record at this time, but this was world record when I started watching Zost's channel, and this was a huge moment for me, right? And so I literally did. I thought to myself, I was like, maybe I should stop. Clearly I didn't, but yeah. So yeah, I got that run, and it was very, very emotional for me. So genuine question, as a runner, do you ever get the urge to just do a couple of runs of a category you aren't actively running just for fun? I used to, and then I realized I can't do that. What happens is I've forgotten everything that I need to know about how to run the category, and then I get sad and upset that I can't run it as well as I could 6 months ago or a year ago or whatever, and I get bored. Yeah, I just don't. I don't even try to do that anymore. But yeah, that was definitely a milestone moment for me. So clearly I didn't stop. I decided I wanted to go for a 114. Of course, I get a 115 flat about a week later. And then I started running some other stuff because there was a multi-category tournament happening. So I did some runs of GT Classic. Okay. I got a 34. I don't know why the 35 is after maybe I posted them both the same day. And then I got 100% 114.43. Okay. This was March 16th. So it was about 2 weeks after my Zost Bop, which is really fast progression for this. 115 flat had a fast. This had a slow, lol. Very solid run all around. One of the few that I'm proud of. This run was definitely outside. This was an outlier run for sure. It was not as intensely better than my average as some of the other runs that I've shown up to this point, but it was definitely an outlier. So I don't actually remember how I reacted to this, so we're just gonna pull it up and see. But yeah, so let's see here. Okay. So the cool thing about this is I had bopped Oats at this point. So I was second place behind Behemoth, who had a 1:14:33 at the time. I think he still had a 1:14:33. You know, he may have actually improved it down to a low 1:14 or maybe even a 1:13. I may be misremembering that. But I was already second place, and I knew I wasn't in reach of actually getting world record. Yeah, this, again, I mean, you notice, like, I'm in the dark here. And that is because, again, I just couldn't handle bright lights in my face, because I was in a very steep descent into a really bad place mentally. What was that strat going into Leodox? Blue Bomber? It's just Blue Bomber. It's just standard hundo Blue Bomber. You can ask that question again in a minute. But yeah, I mean, I was not in a very good place. Got scammed by Steam there. You see me kind of smirk about it.
Screw you too, Steam.
I had been muted apparently.
114.
That tells me I probably was in a pretty irritable mood. I used to mute constantly because if I didn't, I would just
That was almost a 219 escape.
I would just turn people away from my stream because I was constantly complaining, and you know, people would it was just, so here I am talking about how this was the second ever 114. So Behemoth had done it.
Anonymous gifter, thank you.
But yeah, I was the second person to 114. So this was cool. This was a really encouraging moment for me.
That was a slow, wasn't it?
Very encouraging moment for me in what was a really difficult time in life. Okay. This got posted on March 16th, 2020. So side note here, talked about my job a little bit and how things were trending in a poor direction. Felt like people were feeling like I was underperforming, started worrying about losing my job. And, you know, so March 2020, as most people are aware, is when the United States shut down because of COVID. I remember I went into work and I was trying to make it into the office more because I knew that I was supposed to be in the office as much as I wasn't. And went into the office, and the CEO of the company was actually there, and we had a meeting with him as a team. And he talked about, you know, you guys have probably seen like some companies are like sending people home because, you know, they find out that somebody has been exposed and they're sick and blah blah blah. And basically what he said was more or less, if we find out that somebody has been exposed, then like, yeah, we'll probably send you guys home, and probably be home for like a week, you know, maybe like 2 weeks, and then just business as usual, just so that, you know, just so you know what to expect. That's what to expect. Okay. Later that day, my boss, the same one I referred to earlier, pulled me into a room and very politely and professionally, and with words that I had to read between the lines, he basically said, we need you to come into the office more, and if you don't, you're going to start getting in trouble, and then you're going to get fired. It's pretty much what he said. He didn't say those words. More of what he did was he fished for a commitment from me to come into the office more, which I agreed to. Okay. In the midst of that, he acknowledged, he said, it seems like you have a lot going on at home. And I was like, I mean, yeah, I have a really busy life. It's true. And he was like, what did he say? He was like, I want to see you be really successful in this company. So I understand that you do have a lot going on at home. Can you commit to being committed to your job as well? Like, we need to see you in the office more, blah, blah, blah. And I was kind of like, I mean, yeah, I have to keep my job. I have to provide for my family, you know? Thank you, Arian. I banned them, by the way. But so he had that conversation with me. And half an hour later, there was an email sent out to everyone in the company that said, we have a confirmed case of COVID. Everybody go home. We'll see you in 2 weeks. And you guys know the rest of that story. So what can I say about that? I'm not going to get too into it, but the circumstances of my job right now allow me to work from home completely. There has been a return to office thing at my company. And because of my anxiety and the office space not being conducive to me actually being a productive employee, I'm able to work from home for now. That's not a guarantee indefinitely, but I am. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. But that happened. I don't remember the exact date, but I have a hunch it was right after this, like probably the next day, kind of right after this. So what you're going to notice here is multi-category tournament was going on. I PB'd NGT Classic again. This was a PB in a race where I actually grabbed a bunch of extra safeties, but it still ended up being a PB, so that's really funny. I'm actually really proud of this race. I'm still proud of it. For the record, I was playing out of my mind somehow during this. I don't really understand, but yeah. So it was me versus Cutie, Super Metroid Multi-Category Tournament 2020, hosted by Speed Gaming. And
watch for both players.
It is, and actually Zeni's super count got pretty healthy, so he ended up he's not going to suffer any consequences from his earlier super spam. Although technically you still lose some here because you're not collecting like you are in most categories. Ooh boy, oh my Lord.
Unless you
Holy
grapple.
moly. I don't even know if I've seen a grapple like that, or maybe I just haven't been paying attention. Good God, Zeni. Holy moly.
Static has some 400 APM Metroid video
Dude.
where he grapples so many times.
What did we just witness? All 4 of those rooms were crazy. Wow.
That was amazing. Cutie fixing that so amazingly. Did you see how fast Cutie fixed that mistake?
Kip is amazing at commentary.
Yeah, both of these runners have phenomenal Torians.
Look at Cutie's drops.
Oh, Zeni, did he get it? You've got to be kidding me. Holy
Wow!
moly.
Wow!
So yeah,
This is and I'm not kidding, this is basically a god Torian. Like, this is insane how fast this Torian is. Well, I said that and then he went to say it. Save. Holy moly.
okay. So that was a PB for me in that race. It's still, that's my PB. Like, so that's funny. But yeah. That is the GT Classic with Hundo strats. Yeah, it's Turian GT Classic is basically the same as Turian Hundo until Zeb Skip, and then it changes a little bit. But yeah. There's also this low percent run, which was my PB until a few months ago. Which again, it was a race PB, it was semifinals, multi-category tournament 2020. I don't remember the circumstances behind this. I think it was like a 3 or 4 minute PB. Like, people thought that I was like sandbagging. The reality is I just hadn't really played low ice very much, but it wasn't that hard for me to figure out how to do decently well in it. And so this was basically just a run where I had minimal mistakes anyway. And then the tournament ended. And so now we're at May 2020. Now remember, my 114, my first ever 114, second person to 114, was in March. The end of the tournament, happened in May. Now, you might think, oh, well, Zeni was just not really focusing on Hundo during this time. He was, focusing on the tournament. And that's partially true, but the thing is, I was still focusing on Hundo. Despite everything that I had been going through, I was still pushing Hundo as hard as I possibly could. And then doing multi-category prep in between that. And all of that was happening in between or after working hours. Because again, we all got sent home for COVID. And so sometimes during my work day, there would be, a couple hours here, a couple hours there of like nothing on my calendar. I was like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I'm completely caught up on my work. I guess I'll practice Super Metroid, right? I don't really do that anymore because I don't have time to, because that's not how my job is anymore. But it, like, this span of time, if I wasn't working or sleeping or actively taking care of my kids somehow, or spending time with Sassy, which I did not do enough of at this time, to be clear. If I wasn't doing one of those things, I was playing Super Metroid. Sometimes I talk about my total number of hours in Super Metroid, and I talk about how if you look at my total number of hours streamed Super Metroid, and then you take the hours from 2017 until 2021, and you essentially double those hours because I was practicing offline as much as I was streaming online, you'll get a rough average of how much I've played the game. Like, I'm not exaggerating. It's true. From especially during these years, if I wasn't doing one of those other like 3 or 4 things that I mentioned, I was playing Super Metroid. I was practicing or doing runs, streaming. I mean, that was it. That was my life, and it was not balanced well, and I did pay the price for that. Super Metroid is not what caused my burnout, but the way that I approached it didn't help. I didn't PB again after this 114 until June. Okay, so it was 3 months of pretty intentional, pretty consistent grinding. Some of that effort was being distracted by the multi-category tournament, but it's not that I wasn't putting the time in. I'm not good at running more than one category at a time, which is ultimately one of the reasons that I dropped out of the most recent multi-category tournament, because I knew that I had some other IRL stuff come up and I knew I didn't have the bandwidth for it. So still grinding hundo. Took me 3 months to go from a 114.43 to a 114.31. Partially because this was quite an outlier compared to my average at the time. And yet at the same time, this was a slow, and so it shouldn't have been that hard to beat. But multi-category tournament was going on, work crap was going on, COVID was going on, mental health was still on a descent into darkness and despair. And yeah. So it took me 3 months to beat this, despite the fact that I was still working very hard on everything. I then did not PB again until I tied my PB a month later, after which I was able to PB by 5 seconds 3 days later. Okay. So the thing about this run that is fairly important, this is a 114.31. So this was better than world record at the time that I started streaming. Okay. So again, previously my goal had been, I just want to beat Zoast time, which was world record when I started watching runs and practicing. Not started watching runs, started watching Zoast and practicing. This bopped Behe's previous world record, no longer current world record as of the time. Caption is the long uphill climb. And this is when I started really realizing and understanding the depths of how much work and effort had to go into playing this game at the top level. Up until this point, PBs never really took me more than 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks, right? And then suddenly it took me 3 months, or from here? Yeah, no, from here, 3 months for one PB. And then, yeah, I started realizing, oh, like this is getting really hard. I don't remember my reaction to that run, so I can pull it up here. The question is, yeah, so it's going to be this one. So one thing that you'll notice is my cam is now lit again. Now, you might think, oh, Zeni must be doing better. Well, not really. When 2020 happened, when COVID happened, there were a lot of people watching Twitch. There was a big uptick in general stream participation because everybody got sent home, so everybody had nothing to do. So everybody was just watching Twitch or YouTube or whatever all the time. My numbers had been steadily going up for my stream since about AGDQ 2019. More people were coming in. They probably would have gone up faster had I been in a better place at the time, but I wasn't. But as of 2020, things continued going up, and I actually started hitting some of the milestones that were necessary for partner application, Twitch partner application at the time. So I started putting more effort and more emphasis into trying to make my stream look good and sound good and be more presentable, right? Because I was pushing for Twitch partner, which I did end up getting, I think, in June or July 2020. It was right around that time. So it was around this time. The other thing that made this difficult is, and that actually, yeah, that would explain another part of the reason that the progression slowed down is because I didn't do runs off stream and I only streamed when I knew that Oats or Zost or Behemoth wouldn't be streaming, because if they were streaming and I tried to stream, my numbers took a hit and it ruined my averages for trying to become partnered. So I had to like approach that in a very like methodical way, and that meant less stream time for runs, but I was still practicing a ton, right? Anyway, so just gonna skip ahead here. Okay, so let's see. Reset. That's another thing that I'll talk about here in a minute. Reset. So I've been resetting for 3 hours. Finally finish a run 3 hours into stream to 1:16:02. Okay. So we're 22 seconds ahead. Then we lose some of the time, then we gain some time, and I end up getting 1:14:31, which again, this time beats what had been previously the world record. So I don't actually remember how I reacted to this, so this will be interesting to see.
All right, that's 2 of my 3 current goals. Dude, this PB is so long coming. Oh my gosh. All right, so yeah, that's second place. That's Zost Bob again, which is second place. And I'm not gonna say more importantly, but even before Zost took second back from me, I wanted to get a time that was better than the world record when I started. And this beats that time by 2 seconds. When I started streaming 100% in 2017, the world record was 1:14:33 by Behemoth. So
yeah, so I mentioned this earlier, Eisenberg, sorry. My reactions during these years were very extremely subdued, just because I was under so much pressure and in such a bad place. It was hard for me to get emotional, like visibly excited or emotional about almost anything. So yeah, I mean, like I said there, like that was 2 of my 3 goals. I mentioned it was a Zost bop. That's interesting to me. Okay, I need to look at this. Let's see here. Because he must have PB'd. That would make sense. He probably PB'd during the multi-category tournament. Oops. So I had been second place with my 1:14:43, or my 1:15 flat actually would have been second place. Okay, so I don't know what his time would have been, but Zost apparently had PB'd. So he took second. So that run retook second place. And it achieved it beat what was previously the world record. Okay, June 7th. Okay, a month later, I tied that PB. Frustrating run ending in tied PB. And then a few days later, I got a 1:14:26. A few days later again, I got a 1:14:24. A few days later again, I got a 1:14:11. And then a month later, I got a 1:14:08. And a few days later, I got a 1:14:05. And then 9 days later, I got a 1:14 flat. Now, what's really interesting about this is, yes, I choked this run. I don't remember anything else about it. In fact, I think I had forgotten that this even happened, this 1:14 flat. So yeah, it was interesting. The very interesting thing though is this 1:13:57 here. So we're gonna pull this up. Even though I was still in a bad place, during this time period, things had kind of started quote unquote stabilizing around the COVID work from home stuff that was going on. I realized that I didn't necessarily need to worry about being forced to go back into the office for a while. And so that was nice. It was also kind of stressful because I didn't know like when are they going to start pushing that, right? So I was always kind of worried about that. But my work cadence had started stabilizing, which allowed me to do a little better with that. Okay, so I've been grinding, right? And I don't remember why my cam was dark. I mean, it could have been mental health, could have been other stuff, but I'm trying so hard to get a 1:13. And I had the 1:14 flat, I choked it, I knew I was capable, right? I'm 10 seconds ahead. Best possible time's a low 1:13 still. We're halfway into the run, everything's cool. Now, at the time, USB to SNES was not super stable. My PC was stable in the sense that it didn't crash very often, but some of the other stuff was not super stable. Live split wasn't very stable because USB to SNES wasn't very stable, etc., right? So, okay.
No, not again, dude.
So if you watch the timer here.
Gosh, damn it. It happened in a run earlier, too.
It's coming up here.
Keeps happening.
Okay, so the timer crashed.
Okay.
Thing is, I had to like not watch my timer super often. So I this is around the time that I started keeping it like on screen but out of sight as much as I could, so that I only would see it when I would intentionally look over. But yeah, you can see timer BTF, time stopped, right? And I think I was still
That
looking
was
at
a very strange Ridley with a very
maybe.
long ride at the end.
twin. Oh no. Well, Zeni always says he doesn't want to look.
Okay. Live split crashed. That's cool. Okay. We have no idea what our pace is.
Yeah. So no longer any idea what the pace is.
Maybe it'll catch up eventually.
So from here on, I'm just kind of trying to mentally keep track on how the run is going. I was already pretty good at that at this time, but not amazing necessarily. I got really, really good at it eventually, to the point that like, if I've run a category enough, I can tell what my pace is regardless. Not necessarily down to the second, but pretty close. Okay, so timer's still crashed. Now, my heart rate hardly ever gets this high anymore. But again, this was semi-normal for this time because I was almost definitely on Adderall during these years, during these months, I should say. I don't know exactly. And again, it's not like I would pop the Adderall and start streaming or anything. It's just I took it for work and whatever else I needed, and it had residual side effects on my body throughout the day. Sometimes it would impact me even into the next day. So like maybe I'd wake up and I wouldn't even take it, but this sort of thing would still be happening. Matt Zeni, I haven't seen that guy in a while.
Terrible.
I know I got into the 160s the other day, but like high 170s, I don't think so.
Well, let's find out, boys and girls. Was this the ultimate debated, or did we just get the 113? 52:42 rip behemoth world record. I have to
So we're gonna
show
do
that.
retime here.
You know.
I think people in chat had already been
Stop
checking the
recording.
VOD. I don't like checking Twitch VODs because things can get really screwy with them sometimes. So I was looking
I have
at
a number.
looking at my local recording.
Thank you for your patience. I'm struggling to math really hard right now. I'm sorry. Yeah, so it was 266,224 frames, which is 73.95 minutes. I don't know the seconds. My brain isn't working. Kano, you're the math whiz.
Kano, you're the math whiz. Figure it out. Anyway, but yeah, that confirmed, okay, this was a 113. What's really interesting about that is because...
Yeah, 60 frames per second. 266,224...
113.57.
113.
Because live split crashed. I mean, you could say it would have happened this way or not. We'll never know for sure. But something in my head just was like, well, I don't know. So let's just play the game. Like, I know I was on pace, so let's just try and play as best as we can and hope that we stay on pace. And it worked out. 113.57. So like that was a pretty substantial run for me. And this started something that I will always remember. So this was August 27th. This 113.47 was November 28th. Okay. Now, you might think, oh, Zeni took a break. Or you might think, oh, Zeni, that was just an outlier PB and it was just really hard to beat. Or you might even, think, man, Zeni must have gotten scammed by RNG a lot. It was none of those things. I got on pace to PB against this 113.57 19 times. I missed baby skip 19 times. Get a pace, miss baby skip. Dang it. Okay, well, maybe next time. Get a pace, miss baby skip. Get a pace, miss baby skip. Get a pace, miss baby skip. 19 times I missed baby skip. So the caption is, only took 3 months and 19 chokes. On the 20th time that I was on pace, I did not miss baby skip and I got a 113.47. Okay, so you look at this jump here, right? Holy crap, 113.47 to 113.28. What is that? How did he make such a massive jump? Well, the thing is, during all of these baby skip chokes, I was still getting better at the game. I was still grinding the game. I was still practicing as much as I was previously that I already referred to. I was still running as much or more that I already referred to. I had achieved Twitch partner status, so I didn't have to pull back on my streams anymore. So I was practicing every day, in between work and after work, and then I would stream. Basically, we'd do dinner time, and sometimes I would like hang out with the kids for like a couple hours before they went to bed, and then I would stream. every single night runs. 3 hours, 4 hours, you know, whatever. It was such a grind. And I choked so many times, but I was still progressing at a consistent rate. The PBs weren't coming in and reflecting that. And so this 1:13:28 is really funny because it looks like and also felt like, and the caption says, well, this came out of nowhere, lol, crazy run. And that is true. That is true. But the thing is, when I was able to reflect on it, I was like, no, it didn't really come out of nowhere. Like, it's just that the actual like tangible time came out of nowhere. But my experience of the game and my progression through the game was consistent. Now this is interesting because when I first got the 1:13:57, I believe Behemoth's record was a 1:13:42 or something like that. And he had been struggling to improve it. And I felt close. I was like, man, I could actually potentially world record here. Like, and it started stressing me out and I started pushing harder because of that. And then Behemoth PB'd a couple times and his run his record ended up landing at 1:13:26. Okay. So 1:13:47, and then we got the 1:13:28, which was only 2 seconds behind world record. And I was like, yo, like this is very real. Now, the other really interesting thing about this 1:13:28, this is actually one of the most interesting runs I think I ever had. Let me find it. It's right here. Okay. So we start the run. All right. We're in the green. We get to Fantoon. Not a fast. I was not going for 1 rounds as of yet. Okay, so we got a mid.
I think that was only 5.
Mid fast.
All right.
Okay. Clutched out the 2 round. So we got a mid fast.
A slow way to handle that fast, but
decent Fantoon, like I mentioned there, kind of a slow way to handle that fast, but whatever. Okay. All right. So, yo, Sirium, what's up? Good to see you. So I'm still minus 2.4. Okay. The run continues, and things are not really going very well, to be honest.
all right.
By the time we get to gravity,
Tough.
I lost 9 seconds, looks like. Okay. So that was a really bad wreck chip. All right. And at this point, let's see, I did not have a clock on my screen as of yet, but from what I remember, this was kind of an early morning run. So I wasn't really all there, to be honest. Like, we got to gravity on like this plus pace, and I just kind of, if I'm being honest, I think I just kind of checked out.
Segment coming up.
I missed Sex Master.
Hell yeah.
Got the
Let's
backup
go.
somehow. Okay.
Saved it.
And by the time we get to Edacoons, we've still lost 2 seconds compared to where
Backup,
we were.
man.
Okay.
So good at this game that I miss all the strats, but I've mastered the backup. Hey, Hodaruby, thank you.
All right.
We're low on supers. You have a backup is that it doesn't lose very much time.
So yeah, like I said, I mean, I don't remember a whole lot about this run, but I was wearing one of my lucky shirts. This is actually my lucky hundo shirt. Literally, this is my lucky hundo shirt. I forgot to mention that, but I'll go back and mention it. One sec. Okay, so we saved a few seconds to Mama Turtle, but we're still 6 seconds behind. Okay.
On the missiles.
Lose more time at space jump. 10 seconds behind. Lose more time at spring ball, 13 seconds behind. And then we save time at screw attack, but again, still behind. Like, this is so funny to look at.
Thank you.
Still +3 after Ridley.
Bet anyway.
Suddenly ahead at grapple, so we saved a few seconds there.
Good luck with that.
Saved 5 more seconds at X-ray. And then we lost all that time at, not all of it, most of that time at Retro Brinstar, which is a really hard segment. So it makes sense. Get to Brain Dead, save 4 seconds. Okay. I don't know what exactly happened, but somehow we saved more time after Mother Brain, at and after Mother Brain.
Let's go. What the hell, man? Where did this run come from?
Like, I remember finishing this run and just being like, I don't remember the last hour. You know what I mean? Like, it was crazy. I bonked a platform in Parlor. That honestly doesn't surprise me. I used to be and still kind of am pretty bad at Parlor on pace. Okay, so I think I was probably texting Sassy here. But I mean, I was pretty happy, you know? I was pretty happy about this. Obviously. I mean, I'm only 2 seconds off world record now, when I wasn't even sure if I'd be within striking distance for it again. Like, so I was pretty happy about that. Before I forget, so, the Lucky Hundo shirt, the reason I call it my Lucky Hundo shirt is actually because, for those of you who have been here all day, first run that I reviewed was my Hundo 122.59, which was an absolutely crazy run for the time. This pace ended up being a massive PB. Okay, I mean, you look at these splits, this shirt. Okay, so this became my Lucky Hundo shirt. So it was pretty fitting, that I got that 113.28 out of nowhere with my Lucky Hundo shirt for sure. Okay, and then something happened. So that was December 2020. Something that I should mention, during the 19 chokes era, the company that I was working for started telling people they wanted them to come back to the office, but we're not going to force you, but the office is open as a resource. That's fine and all, but my boss, which was a different person now, by the way, compared to the one that I was talking about earlier, started really pressuring us to come back in so that we could work better as a team. And one of the things that he did was he insisted that we needed to come in to get lunch together to celebrate a company milestone. And I was like, okay, whatever. I was like, if it's so important to you, I'll go in for this lunch thing. Okay. So I go in, we have lunch. I didn't even like the food. I didn't enjoy the conversation. I didn't enjoy being there. I get home. Okay. I was there for a couple hours. It really shouldn't have been a big deal, but it was really hard for me to do that just because I was in such a mentally bad place. I get home and I get a message in my work chat from a guy who I have no ill feelings toward him, but he was on my team for about 2 years and it was miserable. I really did not like working with him. Get a message from him to the group, myself, my other teammate, and my boss. Hey guys, just wanted you to know I just tested positive for COVID. Keep in mind, Sassy was in an even worse mental place than I was, and I was not in a good mental place. And her anxiety was through the roof with trying to make sure we didn't get COVID, and that built my anxiety. And so we didn't leave the house unless absolutely necessary. And I leave the house to go into the office for the first time in a long frickin' time. And I'm there for 2 hours, and I get home, and my teammate that I don't even like, that I didn't enjoy the conversation with, that I didn't, whatever, tells me, hey, sorry, I wasn't feeling very good today, so I just got tested, and I am positive for COVID. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, dude, why did you even show up for lunch, man? Come on, dude. Okay, here's the other thing. That was on Halloween when we had that lunch. Okay, it's Halloween 2020. My anniversary with Sassy is November 1st. So I got to spend that anniversary quarantined in my office, away from my wife, away from my kids, miserable because I feel fine, but am I fine? I don't know. Because my coworker's a freaking idiot, right? Thankfully, we did not get COVID, Ostrich, that time. But it ruined that anniversary. Okay. Now, there could have been one teeny tiny bright spot in this, in that, I was quarantined. I had nothing better to do. It was the weekend, so I didn't have work. So I think I streamed for 12 or 13 hours that day, just grinding hundo runs all day. I think I got on pace to PB at least twice, maybe 3 times, and they ended up being some of those baby skip chokes. So that was pretty rough. It could have been a bright spot there, but nope, that was just a miserable couple days all around. It's just garbage. So anyway, all that stuff happened. But as of December, obviously I was feeling a bit better. I got this 113.28, feeling a bit better. And, it's interesting. winter is probably the worst time for most people with their mental health if they struggle with it because of seasonal affective disorder and stuff like that. No, he's a much bigger dude than I am, Ostrix, so that wouldn't have gone well. But December specifically, November, December are actually my favorite months of the year. December is my birthday. I've always loved Christmas. I love the snow. I love sledding. I love, there's just so much awesome stuff for me personally. There's a lot of nostalgia around that time of year. Like it's one of my favorite times of year. So that definitely was kind of boosting my spirits here, but I still was not in the greatest place. I was just this is kind of like a little pocket of a better state for me, right? Like I finally got over that baby skip hump. We're not choking anymore. I got a great PB. I'm only a couple seconds off world record. I now have amazing ammo to not go back into the office because of what happened. So I'm not worried about that, So I was just in a pretty good spot here. Now, remember, a couple years before this, I had a really, really crazy run on New Year's Eve for reverse boss order, right? So we're building up to the end of the year, and I am 2 seconds off of world record. And I'm like, bro, how sick would it be if I had another freaking crazy run on New Year's Eve and got 100% world record? That would be freaking sick. So I started really amping myself up, right? I'm like, that's going to happen. It's going to be awesome. Christmas came and Christmas break, and I'm just having the time of my life, grinding hundo, just getting closer and closer. And that was the year that Kip and Zost and I did, I think it was co-op any percent. Might have been co-op 100%. Either way, I was having so much fun. For the first time in a while, I was having so much fun with the game and streaming and stuff. And I really felt like greatness was right around the corner. Okay. New Year's Eve comes, it arrives, and I start stream, and I'm so amped. Now, I don't have the footage from this, so this is purely my memory, okay? But New Year's Eve, I'm streaming, I'm doing runs, I get on some great paces, I'm feeling really motivated, but unfortunately, none of them panned out, okay? Stayed up kind of late trying to make it happen, but ultimately, the clock ticked past midnight. It's officially 2021. This awful year is over, and you know what? I didn't get the world record on New Year's Eve, and that would have been super sick, but that's okay. I'm okay, So I go to bed, and that's the end of the story. That's when I quit Super Metroid, quit streaming. Hope you guys enjoyed it.